Politics. I'm your host, Darnie Price, and tonight we have the folks from Cumberland Clear. These are the folks who are fighting the landfill. But before we get started, as always, we want to say a very special thank you to MBR TV and our hero, Steve Hall, owner-operator of MBR TV, who puts up with us for 15 years and running. And all the shenanigans and everything we've done. Steve Hall, too, by the way, was even falsely arrested one time because of politics went on in this county, and then it all went away. It was made to go away and everything. But we've been through it together, and I just want to say, NBR TV and Steve Hall, people have been trying, because it's a popular show, to get commercials run during the show, and he goes along with me and says, no, the minute you get commercials, then those people with money get involved with the show, then they tell you what you can and can't say, and we don't want that. So Steve Hall, you're a big hero of the day, and we want to thank everybody else behind Truth or Politics that makes the show happen. There's a lot of people out there that are incognito that feed me information. Thank you so much for making that happen. We want to thank our viewers and listeners too up in Pulaski County and all over. People watch this all the way out in California, friends in California. So thank you guys for joining us tonight. And you folks in Pulaski County, I know we got some new viewers tonight from Pulaski County who are concerned about this, and you need to be asking the big question: what is your leadership in Pulaski County doing to keep you safe from this? And the answer so far is a big goose egg. Okay, but let's get started. I want to introduce these fine folks. First off, tell everybody your names and first your names, and then we'll get into how you got involved in this. Go ahead.
Okay, I'm Jennifer Shockley.
Okay. I'm Ralph Treishman. It's a pleasure to be here.
Okay, and how did you? I mean, you can go first, and then him. First off, how did you find out about this landfill?
Actually, you found out first.
I switched the order because we actually we own and operate Timber Rock Lodge, which is adjacent to the proposed landfill site.
Oh gosh.
So we kind of had feelers out to see if there was going to be some developments on this land near us that we knew was vacant and had been transferred into ownership a couple of times, and kind of trying to keep our finger on the pulse of what was going on. There had been rumors, including the title ownership of one of the plots of land was actually called Roberta Landfill Phase 3. So we're talking about Phase 2 in this conversation, but the Phase 3 was an LLC created to own a piece of property that I've gathered some of the people involved in this were thinking was down the road, even another opportunity to cash in and expand this landfill even further.
Right.
But because of our awareness of things going on, we had been kind of close to some of those landowners and talking about things, what was going to happen, when was it going to happen, and it was always very, well, there's really nothing going on with those landowners, right? They were like, well, there was a potential, but no, it fell through. So, so we actually got a little complacent and thought, okay, it looks like this is never going to be anything but nice woods next to us, so we don't have to worry. Lo and behold, my wife points out to me an article in Facebook, which I don't follow, but she said, you need to read this. And it was a small posting that somebody put up that said, hey, did you hear that there were some great jobs potentially at the new landfill? And, for drivers to bring in trash or to haul it from potentially a train transfer station in. Well, that sent me off, and I said, okay, it sounds like there's a lot more than just rumor. That sounds like somebody is already posting jobs or talking about job growth. And so we basically, I wrote an op-ed to the local newspapers. Coincidentally, we were in the middle of a debate about a possible rail trail program, where we had our county commissioners kind of saying, well, rather than learn about it, we would just like to vote no about a new potential park in our area. So I juxtaposed that and said, so you're willing to say no without information about a park, but you're willing to go along with what appear to be plans that you probably are aware of, because it would have had to come before the commissioners in one form or another, to say that you're okay with a landfill? That doesn't seem like the kind of quality of life benefit that our mayor had promised us during his election. So that's where I kind of got started. And then really interesting, right after that article came out, and several of the newspapers published it, I got a phone call from Knox Horner, who is the person who is mediating, if you will, coordinating the acquisition of several pieces of land, and then separately the acquisition of the rights to use a permit that was issued over 15 years ago to cobble together a deal to say, we will start a landfill with the intent probably to flip it very quickly to somebody else. He called me and said, oh, let's sit down and talk about an opportunity. I will sell you some land that I'm acquiring so that you can have a buffer between.
Try to buy you off.
That's the way it came off. And I just basically looked at it and I said, son, I'm not sure that there's any price that you could put on land around me that would make it okay for me to be next door to a landfill. Unless you put a couple of miles between me, you're not helping my life or my business or our community. Because once we started to delve into it, we figured out just how big this goal and idea was. But then we really got the attention of people, because one of the things that he had mentioned sort of in passing was, well, we are thinking about having a train transfer station built on a spur off of the railroad that comes right through this county, our county as well,
Right.
and have it right next to Winfield Elementary School as a train transfer station. And they said, but while we build that, and we're going to invest so many millions of dollars, it's going to be wonderful. Things we've heard before, right? And they said, but in the meantime, in order to get this up and launched quickly, we're going to set up a temporary transfer station in downtown Oneida on the railroad and the spurs that existed down there. And that's where really we lit the powder keg, the public awareness.
Because they're going to be bringing in trash and God knows what from all over the country.
Absolutely
And
right.
basically, what I'm being told, and it looks this way, this is scheduled to be, once if we're voted to or whatever, this whole thing is, this will be the second largest landfill in this nation. The second largest landfill.
After Las Vegas.
After Las Vegas.
And ahead of every other city in this
Right.
country. That's
And
absurd.
we're going to get to you in a minute. But here's because something real important. They're like, well, what's a landfill in Scott County, Tennessee? Got to do with Pulaski County, McCurry County. Oh, by the way, all the way downstream the Cumberland River. What does that have to do with you? Here's what it's got to do with you. There's this very large creek called Bear Creek that runs right through this. Okay, here's the problem. What happens in Bear Creek is not going to stay in Bear Creek. You know, most of you watching this know all about what's called leachate. Okay, in case we got somebody new here, all landfills create a liquid toxic substance called leachate. And what inevitably will happen, and they'll try to tell you, no, it's safe. No, it's not. No landfill is safe around any kind of groundwater. Bear Creek runs into the Lake Cumberland, which runs into the Cumberland River. McCreary County, Scott County, Pulaski County, everybody downstream. Our drinking water is downstream from this proposed 1,000+ acre landfill. And Bear Creek runs through it. And Bear Creek's going to run right into Lake Cumberland, right into the Cumberland River. That's the problem. And, these landfills, especially this type of landfill, he is going to accept what's called demolition waste. Okay, what is demolition waste? I'm going to go back through this again, okay, because it's important. We did a whole documentary on this. You get time, go to YouTube, type in Lake Cumberland, what really lies beneath. We did a whole documentary on this, and we get into the science. I'm not going to get into all the science, okay? Go there. You'll learn what C8 is. You'll learn about all this stuff, okay? But, asbestos, PFAS, they're called forever chemicals. They do not break down. They're called forever chemicals for a reason. There's nothing more toxic than this stuff, okay? And it's highly carcinogenic. Highly carcinogenic. That's what he's going to be bringing in trash into this landfill. It will break down. It will create, the toxins will leak out into what's called leachate. And odds are, okay, it's going to end up in Bear Creek and then downstream. That's the fear of this. Basically, get ready to start drinking cancer. I stole, went over to the physical court and said that. And I told him, I'm stealing that from you because that's exactly what you're going to do. Michael.
And they've already had problems with existing landfill.
Right. The existing landfill right now already has violations. And it's a 40-acre landfill? We're talking something 10 times that size.
This is what's so crazy about the whole thing is that we have a new-ish landfill. It opened in
1998.
1999-ish. They started taking trash. So 26 years ago. And during that time, they've only filled 25 acres, but have had violations already. But that is a separate, so that was That's called volunteer landfill.
Right.
And that's existing, and we're kind of watching them and added policing them and watchdogging to our list of things of that existing landfill. The space that they have to expand that existing landfill would be decades of
Right.
potential use for the area's needs, right? And that landfill was designed to serve Scott, McCreary, and all the way up to
Somerset.
Pulaski, right?
Yep.
So the trash that is being collected around and brought there is at a pace that would last that decades, at that landfill. They have 800 acres to work with. They've used 25.
Yeah.
So an acre a year, I mean, it feels like you've got hundreds of years of potential landfill for our current needs. What we don't have is space that would say, let's bring in trash from all over the country
Which
on
is what
trains
he's going to do.
and bring it in and dump it first on the children at this elementary school and then in a new for-profit only landfill.
Right.
That's not even adjacent, I mean, it is adjacent, it's not involved with the current landfill at all.
Right.
It's a brand new one.
Right.
And who needs two brand new landfills right next to each other? In fact, I believe the state of Tennessee has rules against putting two landfills right next to each other.
Right.
And yet, there it is, being
Yeah.
proposed right here.
Right next to the Big South Fork. I mean,
Yeah.
that's
National
like
Park and National
that's like-
Recreation Area.
going to Yellowstone and saying, "Hey, let's put the second largest landfill in the nation right next to Yellowstone."
Mm-hmm.
Try that. But that's what they're getting ready to do here. So this is why you people need to be paying attention to this. Okay. So I'm sorry, we didn't mean to skip
No,
you. We
that's
just took
okay.
off.
Yes.
This girl, I just want to say, both of these people
Wow.
have. She has done so much research, and she's done, talk about somebody doing the work. Anytime there's a fight like this, there's always one or two people that does the work. This girl has done the work. But first, how did you find out about this?
A Facebook post, actually.
There you go. Facebook can be awful, but it can be great too.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
So one of the business owners who has a business on Main Street put up a Facebook post on a Sunday afternoon and told everybody that this was happening and everyone needed to go to our county commissioner meeting the next day. And I didn't believe it. That was the craziest thing I had ever heard, and I didn't believe it. So me and my husband, we went anyways, and it was true. And Knox Horner himself showed up at that county commissioner meeting, and I left, and I said, okay, this can't happen. We've got to stop this somehow. And so I dove into it, my husband dove into it, so many people in our community, we just started digging. And we found out it wasn't just a transfer station on Main Street for trash. It was going to be a whole nother landfill. And the more we dug, the more scared we got, and we got no answers from anybody in our local government. They just kept, passing the buck and refusing to make any statements. And everybody just got really upset, and we said, no, this is not okay.
And what happened was what happened up in Pulaski County. The citizens started showing up.
That's right.
For people who say, well, you can't fight City Hall. Yeah, you can. The citizens of Pulaski County showed up, and we got the leachate stopped. And the citizens down there have showed up. And
That's right.
That's right. And you guys pretty much started that.
Yeah.
Yeah, and so, several meetings you had hundreds of people, didn't you?
Mm-hmm.
Oh, yeah. I mean, I think maybe the first meeting there was probably, I don't know, maybe 60, 70 people. And then there was a meeting later, a few weeks later, and there was, 100, maybe 200 people in the audience. And, everybody collectively just come together and we said, no, this is not okay. And so we couldn't rely on anybody else to help us. So we just said, how are we going to help ourselves? So that's how it really started is, all of us talking to each other and sharing information and trying to come up with a solution to stop it.
Community action. That's it. And that's how you get things done.
And
Okay.
it was right after one of the city of Oneida meetings, because one of the first demands that I think we were all trying to make is to double check that the Jackson law had been adopted by both the county and the city where this proposed landfill was going to be. And the Jackson law, for anybody that doesn't know it, stipulates in Tennessee that local authorities have the right to say no thank you to a proposed landfill.
Good.
That's going to be within their city limits or even next to. So we were fighting for that sort of clarity on the authority that the local governments even had in the case. And while we were there and having these meetings, we kind of kept meeting in the hallway after the fact and sharing information and going
There's
on.
always the meeting, and then there's the meeting.
There was
after.
exactly there was the people getting together and says, you've got a great Facebook post and you've got a thing over here and you've got a thing over there. He says, what we should do is pool our resources, get together and get formalized, and that's when we created Cumberland Clear, where we got elected officers. We created a 501c3 nonprofit corporation.
And I gotta say, folks, I've been involved in a lot of coalitions and different organizations getting organized and everything. I've never seen an organization get so organized so fast and get 501c3 and get, you guys, when you get a chance, and we're going to talk about this more, okay? When you go to their website, cumberlandclear.org, you're going to see the work and the expertise that have gone into this. And, anything you can do to help. Push this button. And we'll get into that more later. I was extremely impressed because I showed up that one meeting, I'm like, man, you guys got to get with it here. You guys got to get.
Well, we believed you.
Yeah.
When you said things, we took you for your word.
So
that you
it's like,
had
so
experience
then the
with
next meeting, it's like, I'm thinking, man, I'm going to have to get on. I'm going to, and I show up and they're like, oh, we do it. We had this. And I was like, my work is done here. It was like, I did not expect that. And I know very happily
Yes.
that you guys got stuff together so fast. I was totally impressed.
And the other thing that allowed us to do, not only organizing, to be able to take contributions
Yes.
as a tax-free nonprofit corporation, gave us protection from the villains that are in this story as well, from the threats of lawsuits which have come.
Yeah.
But also, it enabled us to then focus ourselves on getting our own lawyer to really understand the legalities of what we were dealing with, because we're all a bunch of citizens. We're taxpayers and just people that are trying to get by and living here and didn't know how to fight big garbage, legislation that seems stacked against us and things like that. So being able to hire a lawyer was a big deal. And I know you're going to get into a bit of the coalition stuff.
Well, first, let's talk about the villains, and I like what you said there. Let's talk about who is Knox Horner. Who are these people coming in here to, and I'm going to say this, and maybe it's not accurate, but I just picture this meeting in New Jersey or New York with these city folks, that multi-billionaires that make billions of dollars off of trash and landfills and stuff. And
like the Sopranos, just as an example.
Right, that's what I picture. I picture the Sopranos sitting around, probably not.
Not everybody in New
bad.
Jersey is like that, by the way. I grew up in New Jersey, so
I know,
not everybody's connected.
But I just
to
picture
waste.
this meeting with a bunch of rich, these kinds, and sitting around that don't care about the environment, don't care who they poison. It's all about this, the money, and I just picture them saying, there's a spot down in that's a bunch of dumb hillbillies down there. We could go down there. Nobody, they don't know. We'll just offer them free trash. They'll be so happy doing a few jobs, and they're stupid, dumb hillbillies. We can just move in there, and we can open up the second biggest landfill in the nation, and right under their nose, and we'll just buy the politicians off, and that's what I picture that they thought was going to happen, and so far, knock on wood. It's at least paused at this point. I want to say that. But let's talk about, other than my vision, what these people are.
Who the real villains are.
Who the real villains are. Explain who Knox Horner is and who these people are.
There we go.
Oh, okay. So Knox Horner is a solid waste developer. He has a history of owning and running his own landfills, not only in Tennessee, but also in Alabama. Some of those successful, some of those not, but mostly from his previous ventures, what he does is he sells it to a big solid waste company, takes the money, and leaves. So we believe that's why, he was selected to come to our community, because he had that experience. We have seen in past filings having to deal with a previous landfill that he has a dream of having a transfer station by rail, and he hasn't fulfilled it yet. And I guess he saw our community and said, this is where I'll finally do it. And we have a unique situation where the permit itself was issued in 2010 to a company called Roberta Landfill Phase 2. and they lost the property that the permit was applied to, and then someone else, another LLC, purchased that property, and so he was able to bring those people together and have them actually work together in order to purchase the permit as well as the property that it applies to.
I think what's most villainous about the three entities that she just described, one, Knox Corner and his ideas for developing and flipping, the landowners that sold, after they acquired the land that had previously been permitted and then went under foreclosure, they went in and bought that out of foreclosure and were very quickly trying to get a hold of the permit to reattach it and to flip it themselves. And then thirdly, the people that had the permit issued, that still own the permit, even though they don't own the land that's under it, which is also just a crazy concept. They have been keeping that permit alive for 15 years and shopping around the New York, New Jersey areas for landfill people to come in and buy this permit from them. All three of those entities are people that are just in it for a quick flip. And we're not talking about a townhouse around the corner that you fix up, and do a little new stucco work on and sell to somebody, for a new Airbnb in town. You're talking about something that is burying God knows what and turning into toxic juice that's going to flow into all the waters and is going to disrupt all the economic development plans that we have in our area by instead having the view of a giant landfill with buzzards all over it.
Yeah.
And so you had two local entities, locals, willing to just flip and do a quick deal to make a dollar. Very reminiscent of the bad old days in the neighborhoods where the coal companies and the lumber companies would come in, steal the resources, take off with the money.
Yeah, reminds me of that song, "You'll Never Leave Harlem Alive." And the man from New York shows up and, I've got to pay you money for your minerals, but he never left Harlem alive. Not that I'm...
Not suggesting, but
Yeah.
but it's the same, and you talk about taking advantage of the hillbillies. I'm not from here, but my wife and her family are for generations and generations. And it's just heartbreaking to think that one of the other locals in town would say, "Oh, it's fine. It's just a little business deal. Don't worry about it. It's not personal. It's business."
Yeah, well, it is personal when you're going to...
But it's very personal when you're talking about the thousands of people downstream, up north here in Kentucky, as well as the poor kids at this school. We're talking about a train transfer station that would unload train loads of trash and put it into other trucks to take it into this landfill. That transfer station is less than a football field from the front door of the school.
I
It's
just
just disheartening.
Well, it just shows that when money is involved, sometimes people's ethics just go out the window, and to even think about that, and then you've got little kids down there too. You're a mother and you've got kids down there, and again, this is my kids and grandkids live in Pulaski County, and again, Pulaski County people, you need to pay attention to this, because guess what? We're going to talk about the government coalition here in a minute. Your leadership in Pulaski County is just sitting silent. By the way, your leadership in Pulaski County, your county judge, the physical court, and of course your idiot mayor up there, brought to you 60 million gallons plus of leachate, ran it through a defective wastewater treatment plant right into Lake Cumberland. Your leadership in Pulaski County has done nothing to protect you, and they're doing it again. They're doing nothing to protect you. You guys need to get on board with this and start asking questions of your county judge up there and the leadership, because they could join this coalition if they wanted to. Okay, now, good segue. First, let's talk about this permit. What is TDEC, and explain TDEC and why they issued the permits. And just TDEC is Tennessee, you're going to get into this for a minute, but it's the same thing as the Kentucky State Water District and the Kentucky State EPA, okay? TDEC has the same thing, and go ahead, explain what TDEC is.
So TDEC is the Tennessee Department of Environment and Conservation. So they do a lot of environmental work throughout the state. They're responsible for conservation efforts, state parks, but they're also responsible for issuing solid waste permits. So in 2010, they issued this permit for this parcel of land. It was a very bad idea then. That parcel of land where the permit is issued for is right on top of a spring-fed pond. So they back in 2010, they tried to get a permit to essentially remove that water, divert it somewhere else so that the landfill would be safe. And it was too expensive. They weren't able to do that. And so the project just kind of faltered out and didn't proceed after that. So, that's alarming for us because those conditions still remain today. And that's exactly where they want to put this new landfill. It is on top of a spring-fed pond. This is strip mined land. And if you're not familiar with strip mining, so coal seams are all through the dirt. And our soil in Scott County is very clay. So it doesn't perk easily. The downside to that is coal seams water flows through them very easily. So when you have clay soil, it pools and it doesn't go through. And then all of that water pools, it makes its way to the coal seams and goes directly into the groundwater. So that's the issue that we're talking about with this parcel of land. All of this water that will have leachate in it, all these chemicals are going to pool and go straight into those coal streams, straight into the groundwater. It flows directly into Bear Creek. So that's why we're concerned.
And Bear Creek, in case somebody joined us late, flows into Lake Cumberland. Lake
First end of the
Cumberland
Big
comes
South.
into
Yeah,
the Cumberland River.
South Fork.
So
Yeah.
everybody all the way downstream. And I know it sounds weird that we're talking north, but this flows north and then it comes back south. So Lake Cumberland goes north and then Cumberland River goes back south. So
Yeah, I'd like to invite a few of our legislators in Nashville to drink some of the water out of the Cumberland River that they're watching out their windows.
Right. So TDEC then is responsible for the permit, and so far they have not issued this permit to these
They've
people.
not
That's
recertified
right.
it.
Not recertified it. So as of
That's
right
right.
now, it's on. I guess I'm safe to say it's on hold, so to speak.
For
Okay,
now.
but
Yeah.
the on hold is not. We're still worried about this. So here's the other thing. This kind of tells you about. My first meeting that I went to, I found out about this, and the first meeting I went to was at the Oneida City meeting. Okay, and this is where all the governments decided to form a coalition, which was great, and I'll get into that in a minute. But Knox Horner was there, and he made the statement. Well, this permit's already been issued, and we break ground on September 1st, or 1st of September. Okay, and I'm thinking. So we go back, we leave the meeting, go back and make some phone calls, and no, so I don't want to call him a liar, but, that was not based in fact. Let's just say that. The permit was not issued to him, and they have not broken, they're not doing this yet. So, that statement right there, I think he was trying to just bully.
Well, that's been his
The
motive
coalition.
of operation everywhere that we've seen. It's just the assumption of a close, right? Like a salesperson that comes in and says,
Right.
"Oh, you've already bought this, so fine. Let's just worry about the undercoating on the car now."
Right.
No, it's you're incorrect, sir. This permit is not
Not.
certified. It's pending an ARAP, which is the water mitigation
Right.
plan that has to
Right.
be evaluated, and the Army Corps of Engineers are involved, and all sorts of people that have to validate that they have a plan that will actually take care of this. As I say, these are flippers. These are not landfill builders and
Right.
maintainers. Because we're imagining these folks will come in, try to make their quick money, walk away, and then who's responsible when they didn't do it right?
Right. So one of the things that happened at that meeting, I think it was the mayor of Huntsville, right? One of my heroes, not to mention what he said was great. So he made that statement, and so the mayor of Huntsville goes, well, because you tell he didn't like being bullied, because that was kind of like the way it kind of came out and everything. And there's been other statements made where this guy's just going to try to bully his way into this. The mayor of Huntsville says, well, so I guess we're just going to throw good money after bad, because this is when they were forming the coalition, what we're going to talk about in a minute, and hire a lawyer. And he goes, but by God, we're going to throw it. And he kind of went like this, and I'm like, yeah, there's my spine right there, man. I'm like, yeah. I walked up to him afterwards. I said, thank you, because that's what he needed to see, is somebody standing up like that. Mm-hmm. So what happened at that meeting then and I'm so proud of our McCreary County Fiscal Court. They jumped on this. First, they knew all about leachate because they had me and my husband train them about leachate, because most of the people here in McCreary County either own property in Pulaski County, or, you know, we go boating in Pulaski County, we go to the restaurants in Pulaski County, and you're drinking the water from that restaurant, you're drinking Lake Cumberland water. So they were already well educated because of the Marrakech leachate problem that we got stopped. So as soon as my husband and I presented it to them, with Steve Whitaker, which is, you know, an amazing guy, another hero in this story, Steve Whitaker and his dad. The county judge executive and they didn't waste any time. They immediately voted to join the coalition. No, we're fighting this, and we don't care what it. You know, we're going to join the coalition and share the cost of this. So, which is what Pulaski County government has not done. Okay, so we're very proud of them. So what happened then is, I know I'm going to forget somebody. The county, Scott County, McCreary County, the city of Huntsville, the city of Winfield, the city of Oneida, all of these. Am I missing anybody?
That's the main.
I named them all. I can't believe it. Okay, so they all had a meeting. They all joined forces, and they hired an attorney too.
Made resolutions officially
resolutions.
to join to fight this.
And the city of Oneida, that little mayor down there, she
Lori Phillips Jones.
She really, they started immediately passing ordinances. You know, trying to pass ordinances and passing ordinances that would make it really hard to bring a landfill.
As did Winfield.
And in Winfield, yes. So, you know, you have some folks that don't want to be poisoned. You have some folks that see all of these they're called county commissioners down there, right? County commissioners, they're like city councilmen, I guess, you know.
Yeah.
And county judges, but they're not called county judges down there. Whatever they're called, mayors, whatever.
Yeah.
Same thing, they're just called different names. So you have all these municipalities, there you go, joining forces, fighting this and then separately we have the civilian coalition fighting this. This is how important this is to stop this, folks. It's just that important. So what is the latest? That's my next thing. What is the latest on I know that they and I understand that the coalitions kind of have to keep, because this Doc Sworn guy's showing up to these meetings.
He was. I think
he's kind of stopped.
He's kind of faded back into the.
But they have to. They're getting
but
strategies.
Everybody has now said, all right, look, we're going to have a little conversation in public because everybody's talking sunshine, and you know you want to have insight, because first there was a lot of distrust about even what the governments were doing.
Right.
So once we kind of got the governments to commit publicly that they were actually against this and working towards a goal to stop it, then it was, okay, go have your strategic meetings about tactics, what you're going to do to stop the guy, not in front of him.
Yeah.
So they would have an executive
private.
meeting in private. The same with our group. We didn't, obviously, we're not governments, we're not held to sunshine laws, so we're able to get together with our lawyer and have conversations. And then now we're encouraging our lawyer to talk to their lawyer.
And there's a reason for this. It's not that people are trying to hide something from the public. We're trying. When you're playing football, I know it's football season, okay?
Yeah.
When you're playing football, there's a reason that they come into a huddle over there.
That's right.
And, you know, they don't let the other team come over and listen to your huddle, okay? Because you don't want them to know that, you know, I'm going to do a forward pass and we're going to do a run game or whatever. You don't want the enemy to know what your strategy is. So they're doing that. And so, and I'm very, you know, my husband's part of this too. And so I'm like, so what's that? No, I ain't telling you. Don't worry, we're handling it. I trust him completely. So, so there's that going on. So the coalitions are doing their thing. You guys are doing your thing. So, let's see. So besides the coalition, the municipality coalition and everything, and the community coalition, who else is on our side? My understanding is now we have a state senator down there.
Yes, ma'am.
Tell us who else is on the good guy side, the anti-landfill. Who else is on our side?
So Senator Ken Yeager has expressed his support for to try to stop the landfill itself. Unfortunately, he doesn't support stopping the transfer station for the railroad to bring in trash, which is a little disappointing, but that just means
Not that he's against it. I think he somewhat defended. I believe his statement was more like, they don't have jurisdiction over federal trade type.
Yeah,
concept
there
that
was an
manage
issue with like interstate commerce.
interstate commerce on the rail system is a
Yeah.
kind of a bigger wicket, and so
Yeah.
he was like, "Well, I'm going to fight where I can." So he was in
Right.
Nashville
Right.
talking about, going to the commissioner of TDEC and saying, "I'd rather you didn't do this in Scott County because it doesn't need to become trash town.
Yeah.
Because it's already got a landfill, its needs are being taken care of. You don't need to sell out to just a company from
And we
around."
have a huge national park here. Again, that would be
Yeah.
like putting
Yes.
a landfill right next to Yellowstone. Go ahead, Michael.
The permits, I'm not really following this. They currently have a permit for the current landfill.
Right.
He's wanting to use that permit to cover what he's putting in.
No, I'm sorry. So it really is confusing because there is an existing landfill called volunteer landfill that was originally back in the day this, if you will, Roberta thing. That so when there was a phase one, that was the phase one, and in conversation there was this phase two and even phase three if the property owners were all getting together. But once the volunteer landfill was sold to Waste Connections, and they're in there managing and operating the current landfill called volunteer landfill. Let's just put a fence around that and say that landfill is now existing. It is a separate entity from anything that happens after the fact. After the fact, and by the way, that original landfill there was a lawsuit that was filed against the Scott County commissioners because they had tried to stop it sort of after it had already been sort of agreed to, and they were told you can't stop it. That landfill needs to go forward. And at the time, they were closing down another landfill in the area, so the county actually needed one. Fast forward to 2010, the same guy that had built that first one and flipped it came back to the table and said, "That was fun making easy money, I'll do it again." And so he filed another permit request, brand new, completely separate, and kept confusing the naming conventions between the existing landfill and his proposed new one. However, that said, he was able to get through TDEC a permit to do a landfill on 24 acres of land that happens to be nearby the current landfill. But let's not confuse the two and call them connected. This is not an expansion of the original landfill. This is a brand new entity with a brand new permit with totally different ownership. And it's that 24 acres that they're starting from that they're saying, well, that's just the toehold on the beachhead. From there, we have acquired, and this is their voices, this is Ackerman and Adair Realty, along with I keep wanting to call him Jack Horner, but little Knox Horner, who has acquired
Sorry.
700 acres in total. So in addition to the 24 that was in the middle of it, a total of 700, of which that is part, to imagine this large, second largest combined of the 800 that we already have, a brand new one of 700 acres or more, with visions of this train transfer station and all sorts of miraculous trash-related things that he thinks he's going to convert northeast Tennessee and southern Kentucky into this vast wasteland of trash.
Right.
With the simple comment, he goes, the trash has to go somewhere. He says, well, if you make it, you find a place for putting it,
Right.
is our feelings on it. We've got our own landfill for our trash. Take your trains elsewhere.
Yeah.
Okay, but so they haven't redone this permit.
So
What
right.
happens if this permit runs out? Do we lose our current landfill?
You got the,
No.
So,
the
Volunteer Regional is its own entity. So it has its own permit with its own permit number. That belongs to Waste Connections.
That's completely separate.
It will be there regardless if they build or they don't build a second landfill. It's not going nowhere. It's
Right.
still going to operate. It's still going to bring in trash. So the second one is completely different. So they will be bringing in additional trash. So on top of all of the semis that we have coming through Scott County every day, 30, 40, 50, we don't know, that will still continue. And then the second one right beside of it will be bringing in trash by train and possibly semis, who knows, on top of that. Yeah.
Right, because he's got, in his proposal, he's got pictures of rail and a rail station and everything. And
Yeah.
again, let me just say, they're going to be bringing in stuff from all over the country. You know, this ain't our trash that you're going to be
Right.
accepting. And I just want to repeat too, he has said they're going to accept what's called demolition waste. Okay, what is demolition waste? That's the worst of the worst stuff. Imagine, a 50-year-old building that has asbestos in it and Lord knows what else, and you know, it gets demolished, demolition waste. Guess what? You don't just leave that stuff sitting there. It gets loaded up and it goes to where? A landfill. Okay? So your asbestos, your PFAS, everything that's in that is going to go in the landfill. It rains. Okay? Water sits through this. The chemicals come out with the water and it creates, it's called trash soup sometimes. It's called leachate, which is the most toxic stuff ever. And it's highly carcinogenic. And that's what, you know, you're worried, that we're worried is going to leach into the water system. And they'll try to say, oh, no, we're going to have barriers, we're going to have this, we're going to have that. Well, how long did Mayor Keck totally mislead the public up there about his, you know, wastewater treatment plant? It was defective, and sure enough, it took us a while, and in that interim, he got 60 million gallons of leachate. You know, this is horrible. I just want to say this, and this isn't just Mayor Keck's fault. This is leadership at Frankfort in Kentucky. Your state water district to Kentucky has allowed this to happen, not just here in Pulaski County, but all over the state of Kentucky. They're allowing the most toxic substance on earth to be run through as a treatment through wastewater treatment plants all over Kentucky that then empty out into our lakes, rivers, and streams. Let me repeat that. Your state legislatures, that's your state senators, your state reps, your idiot governor, and I have no problem saying that, who God help us is going to run for president, okay? They know about this. They've been allowing this toxic situation to exist for years. And it wasn't until myself and many others have tried to bring attention to this and get it stopped. And we have got to stop in some locations. Here's the other thing. Kentucky, as we sit right now, has the highest cancer rate in the nation. The state of Kentucky, with, you know, all the rivers and Lake Cumberland running through it, the Cumberland River, has the highest cancer rate in the nation. And particularly, this is super important, in the Cumberland Basin, it has the highest cancer rate in the nation related specifically to PFAS and asbestos. Okay, that's your leachate stuff. Okay, that's not a coincidence in my opinion. Am I an expert? No. But you know what? I can, you know, if it walks like a duck, it quacks like a duck, it's probably a duck. You know, in my humble opinion, your leadership in Frankfort, your state legislature, which all of them should be fired, and this ain't a party thing. They've all known about this. They're doing nothing to protect the state of Kentucky for this. They're just not. You know, I don't know if the trash industry hasn't bought off. Probably. Absolutely.
Yeah.
The trucking companies, the rail companies, you know, this is big money. And what they've done is they've taken the money and they've poisoned us all. Tomorrow, your state legislature could pass a law saying no more leachate will be run through wastewater treatment plants. There are better ways to treat leachate at the sites. You don't have to run them into our lake, rivers, and streams. Go ahead.
Now, aren't they in Scott County also running their current leachate through the wastewater treatment plant?
They were up until maybe February of 2025. So they had been doing it, and whether they had a new plan and they decided to stop doing that, or they had actually got called out on a violation and didn't want to give any more water for anybody to test, I don't know, just asking questions. But they have now got an evaporator on site. So you talk about the water a lot. So what's interesting to me is what happens in the air as well. So, so you've got all these natural gases that aren't so natural coming out of a landfill when it rots.
Right.
And they either will set it on fire or just let it go. So every time you smell a landfill, you're smelling pollutants.
You're smelling trash gas.
But it's gas. It is a poison, and it causes lung cancer. So you're talking about now more and more cases of people having lung cancer who have never smoked, who are not like generations of coal miners. These are people that just happen to live downwind, like here, of a landfill, and the prevailing winds, just like the water, comes up north into Kentucky. So all the air that's coming out of the landfill is bad. So what they've actually chosen to do in many cases, and they're doing it in volunteer landfill, is they're trapping some of those gases and then using them as fuel. Oh, you think natural gas, we'll burn that. So not only does that not necessarily alleviate the problem, it just kind of changes it into a different kind of exhaust, but they're using that to then evaporate the leachate. So now you've got a cup full of disgusting water filled with chemicals and toxins. You're going to burn it with toxic gas, turn it into steam, which then goes up into the atmosphere. And so what's going out into that air from those steams, from the stuff getting cooked off? And then what happens to the stuff that's left? It doesn't
Right.
just disappear. Nobody seems to have the answers to those questions. And they've asked for yet another one to expand and double the size of their evaporator on that. But
Here's the thing, too, that's important to know. These giant trash companies, these are multi-billion-dollar corporations. Okay? They've known about leachate and how hazardous this is. They've known about PFAS. They've known about asbestos. They've known about this for years. Okay? They could have invested. There are other ways to filter this stuff. Okay? Your landfill owner-operators that are making billions off of the trash industry could have years ago and still can use the alternative, safer ways to handle leachate. Why haven't they done that? Money. It would cost, would they still be billionaires? Yeah. Typical, industry that all they care about is money, okay? That's what's going on here. They can still do that. They can still retrofit, they can outfit these landfills to handle the leachate safer, and they're not doing it. Why? Because it'll cost them a little bit.
and they don't have to.
And they don't have to. And that's where your elected officials are not making them do it either.
Yeah.
And so you have to wonder how much money from the landfill business, the trash business, is going into the campaigns of your elected officials. Probably a lot. The trucking companies, the railroad companies. This is why somebody says, well, campaign finance reform can't affect everything. Yeah, it can. Well, I dared somebody on one show, you tell me one problem in the United States that's a big issue in the United States, and I can track it back to campaign finance reform that we could fix if we didn't have bought-off politicians, okay? So, you people need to remember that, and when, Upchurch, for our guy down here, and Steins, and some of the rest of them show up and they want to give a speech and not ask questions, you need to say, well, wait a minute. What are you doing to protect us from leachate? Because they're doing nothing. They're doing nothing. They're lining their coffers with their campaign coffers is what they're doing, and they're doing nothing to protect you citizens out there. They're just not. And they know about it. The trash industry knows about it. Everybody just wants to get elected and make money, and they're poisoning our water. And if you think they're not, there's a reason Kentucky is the #1 cancer rate in the nation. And I don't think it's just because of smoking, because I've talked to dozens of people that have never smoked, eat right, exercise, but what do? They drink that water.
Breathe that air.
Breathe that air. And I'm telling you that, to me, this is the common denominator, especially the water. Especially the water. Our waters are being poisoned. And your state water district, Kentucky, still refuse to test for PFAS because they know what they're going to find out. And so when the locals say, well, we'll test for it, which is what happened in Pulaski County, which is what happened to Cynthiana, oh, lo and behold, it's dangerous PFAS levels. Well, no kidding. But your state water district is, those people, the heads of those people, just like probably in Tennessee, probably same thing. All those are appointed positions by the governor. It's all political.
And many times the policies are that they don't even test for PFAS
Right.
in the first place. So it's sort of like don't ask, don't tell. It's like, well, if we didn't test for it, we didn't find any.
Right. Well, and they
So it's
keep
not a
saying,
problem.
that's what Mayor Kexa is saying, we are in compliance. No, you're not in compliance. You can't find what you don't test for. Period. That's what's happening up here in Kentucky, and I'm guessing down in Tennessee too. And here folks, we live in paradise here. We just do. Up there in Pulaski County, we live in a Daniel Boone National Forest, folks. We have bears here. We have, and call me a tree hugger. Fine, I'm a tree hugger. But I'm also a grandkid lover, and you love your kids, This is going to it's already eating away at our environment here. It just is. We have elk here. We have, we live in paradise. And we have people coming in here and politicians that don't care. As long as they get reelected, as long as the trash industry, the trucking industry can pay them off, and they can get reelected. that comes down to you voters. You know, this next 2 election cycles, and this is not a party thing, whoever's in there, you guys need to flock to the
get everybody
polls and clean house, because they have done nothing to protect their citizenry. They just have not. And that is, I'm sorry, I don't care if they're Democrats, Republicans, aliens, whatever. They need to go. They've done nothing to protect you, and you need to vote for anybody who's running for any position that can have, your physical courts, your state senators, your state representatives. They need to answer for this. And anybody running, they need to say, I'm going to protect the citizens and I'm going to protect our waters. And if they're not willing to tell you how and that they're going to do that, find somebody else.
Darlene, I was going to add to your comment, being a tree hugger is a wonderful thing, and the environment is important. Our health is important.
Yeah.
But we talk about the big money of garbage.
Yeah.
There's also the big money that comes out of our pockets as taxpayers that live here. We are the ones that are going to have to pay to keep this thing cleaned up after all this garbage got buried.
That's right.
For decades to come, right? They close a landfill, it takes 30 years minimum, if not 100 years, to completely maintain and sustain the environment around it again. So it's not just an environmental issue, it's not even just a health issue, which seems like that should be enough.
Right.
It's an economic issue, because one of the biggest drivers of both Scott, McCreary County, certainly Pulaski, this is a tourist-futured place, right? The days of industry and people wanting to work in factories and working in mines and cutting down trees, that's gone. The future around here is,
tourism.
We talked about the beauty that we live amongst, is the tourism dollars, because that's the kind of money that comes in from out of state, from other places. They leave sales tax money on the table. They keep our real estate taxes down because that free money's coming in. That's keeping businesses afloat, that's driving towards a future that we've all got a reason to stay here. Our children have jobs as well. So this is an economic issue as much as it is everything else. And sometimes, sadly, those are the things that the legislators need to hear, because they think in terms of money.
That's right.
And we can remind them that these counties of Scott and McCreary, the 2 largest distressed counties in our respective states, just about, right? We're on the bottom of just about all the lists. They're desperate in Nashville, and I assume in Frankfurt, that they don't want to have these counties wallow forever, and that they're looking to invest in these communities in ways that will give them a chance to grow, pull up our own bootstraps. But you've got to have the ability to do that without the detrimental impact of bad industries coming. So one of my other roles in town is I'm the chairman of the Oneida Industrial Board. Right? Our goal is to attract businesses to town. One of the biggest industries is no longer, again, we're not looking to replace our factory that built flooring. We're looking to grow industries like tourism.
Right.
And to add hotels, to add restaurants, to add infrastructure that could support people wanting to go to the park, or using the rail trail concept. Doing the things in our area that people like to do, riding horses. They're not going to do that if they're seeing a giant landfill. Neither the investors will come to do that, nor will the tourists.
And I want to say too, a big shout out to our tourism. We have a tourism board here. Our tourism board met. I did a dog and pony show in front of them, and they voted and to back the coalition.
Yep.
They
and
wrote
to
a letter
fight
too,
this.
right?
They wrote a letter.
Yeah.
A really good letter. And so kudos to our tourism commission did that. They were against the landfill and put it in writing. And that was just amazing that they did that. Also, our papers up here. Eugenia Jones, I know hopefully she's watching out there tonight. She has done article after article after article about this. She's the one that approached me along with Stephen and said, you get ready for another fight? Because I just, I'm like, no, I'm getting ready to retire. And he goes, no, you can't retire. I'm getting ready to fight. And I'm like, oh my God, what is it now? And it's like, when they told me this, I'm like, you gotta be kidding me. No, this can't be true. And it is true. And also, Scott County newspaper, what's the name? Shane.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh, Shane has done a great job down there. So our papers here have done an excellent job of trying to get the word out. I'm trying. This is what I think the 3rd show or 4th show we've mentioned it, and we did one whole show on it. I think we've done shows on it and talked about it and everything. So we're fighting it now. Tell people what they can do to help us fight this. What can they do? Tell us about CumberlandClear.org.
So if you live in Kentucky, you can go to our website. It's CumberlandClear.org. At the very top of the page, you'll see some links. One of them is write a letter. Now, you can write a letter to your representatives in the state of Kentucky. Ask them to make noise. Ask them to stand up for you, for your clean water, for your health. Tell them how important this issue is. If you live in Tennessee, if you're watching this and you're in Scott County or anywhere, it doesn't have to be in Tennessee. Write letters. Write letters to TDEC. That's in Nashville. We have those addresses available on our website. Let them know that you do not support this issue. We're just trying to make as much noise as we can. Let's just be a gnat in their ear, and they just want us to go away, and that's where we're going. So you can do like that. You can support us. Lawyers are very expensive, and luckily we have had such amazing support so far, but we still need donations. You can find a link on our website where you can donate very easily. It's tax deductible. If you would like to get involved, we have regular meetings. We post those on our website. We have a Facebook page, Cumberland Clear. You can stay up to date with what we're doing. The biggest thing is just spread the word. Just let other people know and get the word out.
And you can buy like Cumberland Clear T-shirts, and you're having fundraisers. What's your next fundraiser?
No, I don't.
really
So we just
Yeah.
recently did a trivia night where we raised
Okay.
over a couple $1,000s doing that. But now we're into the phase of kind of restoring the awareness pot.
Okay.
So between the T-shirts, we're also looking at a couple of billboards in Scott and McCreary County.
Those are super effective.
Yeah,
We went
yard
up on
signs,
that.
etc.
Stop the leak. Save the lake. Stop leachate. That stirred up more interest and more questions.
Yeah.
What's leachate? Right there on Highway 27, a big billboard. One of the
Sure.
attorneys, well, actually, my husband helped pay for it too. The two attorneys in Pulaski County posted that up there. But Jay McShirley, one of the best lawyers up there in Pulaski County, man, did that. Him and my husband, and that is a great idea. Those things work. They just work.
Because awareness is half the battle, right? If people stop talking about it, it gets dark again, and that's when all the villains come back out in the dark and do what they want to do without anybody looking at them. So as long as we keep aware of what's going on and we keep people stirred up, they'll realize that this isn't going to go quietly into the
Demonstrations
night.
work too. So organize another demonstration.
we're
I'll be
looking to
down there
organize
holding
by
up
all
a
means.
sign.
I think the biggest thing is no one's coming to save you.
Yeah.
You know, we have our environmental section of the state government. You guys have yours. And let me tell you, there is no one who is looking out for you. There is the regulatory bodies are not protecting you.
They're not.
So you have to use your voice. You have a very powerful voice, and you have to use it.
Yes. And CumberlandClear.org. Go to CumberlandClear.org. Or also they have a Facebook thing, Cumberland Clear. And before we leave, we do this every once in a while. This is the Jackass Award. To anybody that knows something, no, these are our heroes here. We want to present tonight, Truth or Politics, the Jackass Award to Knox Horner and all the people with this. It's probably not the worst idea in history, but certainly one of the worst ideas ever to bring the second largest landfill in the nation right next to, a huge park. And that'll destroy, the Cumberland River and just poison people. So we're presenting you the Jackass Award for being, jackasses. Okay. We're at the end of the show. Big round of applause, man, for our people coming on here and keep continuing the fight. And Truth or Politics, we're going to continue to fight with these guys, and we will have follow-up shows. And I've been turning my book came out. It's called While No One's Watching. This is what happens when and the Mayor Keck story is in there. We poisoned the lake already. Anyways, I'm turning my book signings into an education thing into this. And so we had a pretty good sized one in Somerset, and people were they didn't know. And so we're educating. You guys can help spread the word. Thanks everybody behind the scenes. Michael Mann, thank you so much. Thank you, Steve Hall, NBR TV, and all of our watchers and listeners on Truth or Politics. Thank you so much for joining us. We will see you next time on Truth or Politics. Thanks.